Welcome everyone to our podcast, your introduction to Christianity. I'm Steven.
And I'm Jake, and this is Word on the Street, a beginner's Bible study.
This episode is brought to you by God the Father Apparel. Hey Jake, do you wear clothes?
Sometimes, if I'm feeling it.
Yeah, I understand that. How about anything Christianity related?
No, I don't own much of those.
Well, do you have, like, music artist apparel or anything along those lines?
Oh, yes, yeah, I got plenty of those.
One of the things that I notice is that people who wear Jesus apparel usually wear it for a Christian artist, but it's never really usually just about Jesus.
Oh, no, that's a good point, actually.
Are you in the market for some quality clothing that just scream the name of Jesus, but in a nice, classy way?
I think that suits my fashion.
Well, Jake, then I think that you should check out God the Father Apparel. They have tons of options for you, going all across the board, from hats and hoodies to shirts and even a bunch of different limited edition articles of clothing.
Oh, wow, so they got like the whole enchilada here.
Absolutely. It's also available for a relatively cheap price per item that you, my friend, can buy for yourself.
I might have to look more into this. But wait, there's a lot of options here. I mean, I'm already kind of overwhelmed.
Well, Jake, if you don't know what you want to get and you see tons of different designs and options that you think are really good, you should check out their exclusive bundle. Get 3 random articles of clothing from their store for the measly price of $59, cheaper than getting the 3 articles separate themselves. And get this, it could be 3 completely random items, from 3 sets of t-shirts to even 3 hoodies, or a mix of a hoodie, hat, and a t-shirt.
Well, isn't that nifty? Well, is there a discount out for listeners of this podcast?
Absolutely there is, Jake. For all listeners of Word on the Street, if you use code Mr. Boatcraft in checkout, you can save up to 15% on your entire order. That's code MRBOATCRAFT, saving 15% on your entire order. And if you're wondering where your money is going, and it's not just going to some corporate that makes and just sells t-shirts related to Jesus, 10% of all of the funding that God the Father Apparel makes goes to children around the world and sponsors them and their families to make sure that they have food and water and the proper amount of money for them to attend school and do hobbies that they enjoy.
Now, not only is that buying apparel, folks, but it's buying apparel for a good cause. I like the sound of that.
Go to GodTheFatherApparel.com and check out all the lists of clothing that you can get for yourself. With that being said, go out and spread God's word. Be the disciples that He called us to be.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Word on the Street. I am your host, Jake, and my co-host is Steven. This episode, we're going to be going through Genesis chapters 5 through 9, which will cover some genealogy, and then we're going to go through the life of Noah, the events that happened. The main one being the flood, which that is also quite the controversial topic in the Bible. So,
God,
We're starting out with a bang.
God, when talking to Moses, was just like, all right, so here's how this works.
Yeah.
Here's creation story. Let's write it in this manner, where it's super visual and everything. Also, you guys sinned, and I've damned all of you for eternity, but we'll get past that in a second. Next comes this guy, And he's the only person that I don't hate with a fiery passion. So I saved him and his family and killed everybody else. But we'll skip past that again. Let's go.
No. We don't talk about that right now.
We'll get to that later. it's so funny, and it's something that I'm not happy to admit. But anytime I think about Noah and the flood, I just think of the movie Evan Almighty, starring that one guy who stars in The Office. Have you seen Evan Almighty?
I'm pretty sure I know what movie you're talking about. I have not seen it though, unfortunately.
Okay, let me look up the actor's name because he's the main guy in The Office. Steve Carell, that's his name.
Yeah.
Steve Carell, yeah. It's so funny to me because it's the sequel to Bruce Almighty, and it uses Evan Baxter, who is like the antagonist, yeah. The antagonist in Bruce Almighty. It's so funny to me. I love the story so much. Freaking Morgan Freeman as God shows up to both Bruce and Evan. But in Evan Almighty, for those of you who haven't seen it, Evan is supposed to live the life of Noah instead of like Bruce. In Bruce Almighty, Bruce is given all of God's powers until he learns his lesson. They're great movies. I love them, and they're not like blasphemy or anything like that. They're not just like super satirical. They're great movies. I enjoy them. I wish that Jim Carrey made like a cameo in Evan Almighty though, because he doesn't show up in the movie at all.
Yeah, no, I'll have to watch those movies.
Yeah, Evan Almighty is as corny as it gets. Bruce Almighty is funny just because it's Jim Carrey living a life and being God for a few days. Like, it gets as weird as you can imagine with Jim Carrey. But Evan Almighty is just like, hey, Evan, there's gonna be a flood. You need to save all the animals. And Evan starts to, like, actually physically change into, like, an old Noah. Like, get a white beard and white hair and everything. Kind of like Tim Allen's Santa Claus, where he shaves and then just instantly grows all of his hair back. It's kind of just like that. It's super funny. I love those movies. They're really funny. But that's not how they actually went down.
Wait, what?
It's God didn't just show up to a random newscaster and was just like, "Hey, it's gonna flood. Gotta build a boat." But yeah, like we talked about, I think we talked about this a little bit. If not, oh well. But chapter 5 of Genesis is, like Jake said, genealogy, and it's almost purely genealogy. And while the genealogies are important, it's not like an aspect that is something that needs to be discussed. It just shows the connection, and it's kind of like that thing that we were talking about in the last episode, where the Bible likes to just bounce all over the place and like be like, hey, this is what happened, but let's go back to this moment and zoom in here. This is what's important about this moment, and then it skips it forward again. This is kind of what it does with that. It talks about the descendants of Adam in chapter 5, and it talks about all the descendants of Adam all the way to Noah. And it just goes through and talks about all these different people who are living hundreds of years. I think the youngest person listed in this entire thing is a man named Enosh, who lived 90 years old. And he's kind of like in the middle, not even the middle, towards like the beginning of the genealogy. And Enosh lived 90 years old and then had a son who lived to be 815. Like, what?
Yeah. Some, I don't know, maybe this guy got like unalived or something.
He got attacked by a bear. Because here's the thing, is that Adam lived to be 130. So this is the interesting thing, because Adam was created as a man. He wasn't created as a child. He was created an adult. And the thing is that we don't know what age adult he would have been, but we know that he only lived for 130 years. We don't know what age physically he started out, but it was 130 years. Eve gave birth to Seth, who lived to be 800 years. Like, these people are just, I don't know. Oh, no, sorry, I read that wrong. It said when Adam was 130 years, he gave birth to Seth. That's what it was. So when Adam was 130, he had his son Seth. 130 is when he had Seth. And then Seth lived, the days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years. And thus Adam lived 930 years. So I read all of that wrong. But yeah, Adam lived 930 years. Like, people barely make it to like 75 nowadays.
Yeah.
And then it says that
all
like
this modern medicine and technology.
yeah, exactly.
Can't get back to Adam, bro.
And then it says like when Seth was 105, he gave birth to he had a son named Enosh. Oh, so I read that other thing wrong as well. Enosh was 905 years. When he was 90 years, he gave birth to his other son. But when Seth was 105, he fathered Enosh, and he fathered him for 807 years.
Sheesh.
But the main reason that we're talking about chapter 5 in general, other than the fact that these people are ancient and almost living an entire 1,000 years, is in verse 18, you get a man named Jared who fathers a son named Enoch. And Enoch is one of the most important people in the Bible, being mentioned very little.
Yeah, right.
Enoch has a very historic, impressive story that we learn in verse 24, where it says that Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And what the "he was not" means, because that's literally all it says, is just "he was not." It literally means that he did not die. God literally just swooped in and was just like, "Enoch, come with me," and just took him to heaven. Enoch did not face death, and he is the first and the only other man other than the prophet Elijah to ever not experience death.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is so interesting. He is actually, this is the only time in Genesis, and I think actually in the Old Testament, except up until like, I think it's like one of the major prophets that mentions him again, but he's not talked about for the rest of Genesis in this moment, because it's one of those things where like, this happened, but it's not important right now. We learn more about Enoch in Hebrews, like a lot more about Enoch in Hebrews. So when we get there, we'll make references to this moment right now, but that'll be way in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super interesting that like whatever Enoch did when he walked the earth granted him favor with God, where God was just like, you don't have to die, just come with me.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy, man. Like,
it's super crazy. After we go through all of this random genealogy, we finally get to Noah. Now, Noah was fathered by Lamech, who lived to be 182. Who lived to be 777, but fathered Noah when he was 182. This guy was almost 200 years old when he fathered Noah, which is just insane. And Noah was 500 years old when he fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. When Noah was 500, he fathered 3 sons.
Hmm.
He went half 1,000 years before having his 3 sons. But anyways, in chapter 6, we actually get into the reason that the flood is happening. The reason that God actually decides to flood the earth. And so, Jake, if you would want to get us started, that would be good.
All right. Yeah, I can do that.
Sweet.
Excuse me. All right. So, chapter 6. When humans began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thought of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground. For I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord.
So, that is the corruption story already, and like, I don't know, Jake, have you listened? You've listened to the Bible Project, right?
Yeah.
Other than stuff with our theology classes, have you watched
Yeah,
any of the videos with them?
Yeah, there's a few I watched on my own time. I don't remember which ones they were, though.
They have a video talking about this moment in particular that has stuck with me for a while. Like Luther's study notes for this talk about when you said like the sons of God. The Luther study notes says that that's believers. Like it calls them Sethites, which are tribes
Oh,
born
no.
from Seth who believe in God and acknowledge God, because the descendants from Cain don't actually follow God at all. They're just murdering each other in the wilderness because of the mark on Cain and the wrath that comes for when you kill the person who killed the person. Like it keeps multiplying. So everyone who are descendants of Cain are just murdering each other left and right and creating all of these nations. And then it also says the Nephilim, which in the study notes says just thugs, tyrants, and then also it says sons of God, but also mighty men and the men of renown, sinners ripe for the judgment of God's eyes, ripe for judgment. So if you connect those dots, it's talking about those people. The Nephilim are those people who are just back and forth, just murdering each other. But one thing that the Bible Project said in one of their videos was that there is a chance that the men who saw that the daughters of man were attractive, because of the way that it's worded. I think you were reading a different version than I was.
Oh, shoot.
But like the ESV says that the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Something that they said that because of the way that that's worded, that the sons of God saw the daughters of man were attractive, that the sons of God might be referencing fallen angels. And that if the fallen angels were like physically manifested, helping create all of this tyranny on Earth, then it would be somewhat of a demigod situation. And this is stuck with me because in their video they explain it. There's all of these tribes that exist, all of these different tribes that exist that are just constantly at war with each other, killing each other back and forth. But one thing that that people like don't know about how like the demon quote unquote hierarchy works, because this is kind of like a Catholic quote unquote thing. I don't know if you can really call it a Catholic thing. But like, if there are people are performing like exorcisms or stuff like that, in order to say, like, this is something that we see in the New Testament a little bit, but like, in order to cast out a demon, you need to use a demon's name of a higher authority in order to do so, right? That's kind of like the understanding is that in order to have power over a demon or whatever, in order to cast them out, do whatever, you have to have, like, you have to say in a name of authority that is over that demon. That's why in the name of Jesus always works, because he has authority over everything. But one thing that they were talking about is that if these demons just, I don't know, had a child with a woman on Earth and bore this like mighty man demigod situation, it would make sense for, like, it would explain the tyranny of all of these nations falling if they were worshiping this demigod guy because of whatever power, whatever thing that he had. But it's a weird supernatural thing that kind of just like, it was one of their videos, and if I can find it, I'll put it in the description of this episode.
Yeah, I can't say I watched that one.
But like, yeah, it kind of made me scratch my head a little bit, being just like, I mean, I wouldn't see why that wouldn't be possible, because like almost every religion that I can think of has like a demigod sort of situation with it.
Yeah.
And not to say that like Christianity is the same as all other religions, but like I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be something that could happen. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, freaking everyone on Earth that is currently alive right now is evil and wicked except for Noah. Like, not even Noah's family. It's just Noah. Like, that's the one thing that I like pointing out, is that like Noah had sons and they were awful, but Noah's alright.
No, yeah.
He's fine. He's chilling. Alright, and then starting with verse 9, we get into the flood. So, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God, and Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark is 300 cubits. Its breadth is 50 cubits. Its height 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark, and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in its side. Make it with the lower, second, and third decks. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which it is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die, but I will establish my covenant with you. You shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wives, your sons' wives with you. And every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark to keep them alive with you. They to their kinds, and of animals according to their kinds, of creeping things on the ground according to its kinds. 2 of every sort shall come into you to keep them alive. Also take with you every sort of food that is eaten, and store it up. It shall serve as food for you and for them. Noah did this. He did all that God commanded him. That is the end of chapter 6. Rather short chapter than we've experienced.
Yeah.
But yeah, God's basically like, hey, Noah, the world sucks and I hate it. But you know what? You're a cool guy. Because you're a cool guy, you have earned the right to keep your family alive. So I'm gonna kill everybody else, but your family will live. And your family and you will only live if you build this boat. And what verse is the cubits? 15. For people who don't know what a cubit is, it's kind of a thing that like doesn't exist anymore as far as like a measurement. But the subtext for this says that the ark was 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. That's tall. That's a long boat, a big boat. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, so let's see. If we took, Jake, give me like a big structure, right? It's any big structure that's on the world right now, as far as just like retrospect.
Let me think. Big structure. Let's just do like a football stadium. Your typical NFL football stadium.
Okay,
All right,
so
what's the one the whatever one the Chargers are at? I think that's the most expensive one.
all right. So I'm
SoFi
gonna just do
Stadium.
like how long is the
Yes, it's SoFi.
Chargers football stadium? Is it called the SoFi Stadium?
I'm pretty sure it's the SoFi. Yeah.
How long is the SoFi Stadium? That's interesting.
Oh.
Well, just that it's the SoFi Stadium.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That doesn't answer my question. That doesn't answer my question either.
I didn't think that information be that hard to find.
It's giving
Come
me
on, Google.
it's giving me the capacity, but not like the length. And then it also gives me the square feet, but not the length.
Oh man. Maybe I can think it's like I can think of tall vertical building.
Wait, maybe I found answers. Okay, so envisioned. The stadium's height was reduced to about 35 meters over 100 feet.
Oh dang.
That's not what I need, though. I need the length of it. Can you give me the length? I don't need to know how many tons of material are. The panoramic double-sided structure weights.
It's giving us all the information we don't need.
Exactly what it's doing. You know what? I'm just gonna be like, how tall is the Eiffel Tower? The Eiffel Tower is 984 feet.
Dang, that's pretty tall.
If you stacked the Ark on itself twice, but half of the Eiffel Tower, basically, is how long the Ark was. Half of the Eiffel Tower. Like, that's a big boat! That's a long boat! That is an incredibly long boat. And Noah just built it. God was like, here's how it works. Here's the blueprints. Go do it.
Yeah, he must have been a shipwreck or something.
Actually, from what because my pastor Brian actually did this. Did like a message on this a little bit ago. There weren't boats made before this. Boats were just like not a thing.
What?
It's interesting because like as far as like we know, the only like sources of water that exists are the 4 rivers, And there are other things. It was a good message, and just as far as like boats just weren't a craft. It wasn't something that was necessary, especially since everything was just nations attacking each other. People didn't really need to build a boat for nothing, because everyone was just like, I'm gonna take over your thing, and then other people came over and took over that spot, and other people came over and took over it again. So like boats just weren't a thing. So him making a boat, people were just like, "Oh, what are you doing? What's that?
What's that supposed to do?
Is that how you're gonna take over? Is that how you're gonna take over a nation with that boat? With whatever a boat is?"
Bro, your name would be meaningless, Stephen.
I know, right? I would be like, "Hey, I'm Mr. Boatcraft," and they're like, "What? What's a boat? What's a boat?" But yeah, and God is just like, hey, take your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives, like take your family, put them on this boat, and then you get a bunch of food, and when you're done with the boat, I'm gonna flood the earth. Noah's just like, all right, sounds good.
All right.
So thanks for the heads up, I guess. Alright, well, Jake, would you want to go ahead and tell me what happens at the beginning of chapter 7?
The beginning of chapter 7? Yeah, man, I got you. All right. The Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found your righteousness in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made." And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth, and Noah and his sons and his wives and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days the flood waters came onto the earth.
In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened. The rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. On the very same day, Noah and his sons, Shem and Ham and Japheth, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. They and every beast according to its kind, and all the livestock according to their kind, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth according to its kind, every bird according to its kind, every winged creature. They went into the ark with Noah, 2 and 2 of all flesh in which there was the breath of life. And those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded them, and the Lord shut him in. The flood continued 40 days on the earth. The waters increased and bore up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and increased greatly on earth, and the ark floated on the face of the waters. And the waters prevailed so mightily on the earth that all the high mountains under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed above the mountains, covering them 15 cubits deep. All the flesh died that moved on the earth, birds, livestock, beasts, all swarming creatures that swarm on the earth, and all mankind. Everything on the dry land in whose nostrils was the breath of life died. He blotted out every living thing that was on the face of the ground, man and animals, creeping things, and birds of the heavens. They were blotted from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those who were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed on the earth for 150 days.
Damn.
That is the end of chapter 7, and everyone is dead. Not just everyone, everything. Alright? Okay, so first things first.
Yeah.
It took Noah 100 years to build the ark. Roughly. In the 600th year of Noah's life is when the floodwaters came. Noah was 500 when he bore the Shem, Ham, and Japheth. In between that 500th year and the 600th year of his life is when God told him to make the ark, and then and as soon as he finished the ark is when the floodwaters came, and then everything boarded the boat, the ark, and that's how it worked. It's a big boat made out of a specific kind of wood that I'm pretty sure Noah built by himself. I don't think.
Yeah, like me.
I mean, it says that Noah built it. I'm not sure if that meant like his sons and everyone helped him out or not, or if they were too busy being wicked to help old pops out with building the boat. But yeah, it about 100-year period is like the maximum amount of time that it took Noah to build the ark, because it definitely didn't just happen in a day. There's not a chance. And then, okay, so I need to look up specifically how long a cubit is, because it says in this thing, it seemed to be a detail only God would know, rather than a measurement taken by Noah. And I love that. So let me actually do some math here. If the ark is 400 feet long, and the ark is 300 cubits long, that would put it at 1.5 feet. I think it's 450 feet divided by 300 cubits means that, yeah, it's 1.5 feet per cubit. If we multiply 1.5 times 15 cubits, it means that the tallest peak in the world, Mount Everest, was underwater by 22.5 feet.
Jeez.
After all of the floodwaters came. 22.5 feet is how deep underwater Mount Everest was.
Yeah, that's
And
like hard to believe.
How high is Mount Everest? Mount Everest is 29,000 feet above sea level. 29,000 feet above sea level. We live in Nevada, and Nevada has a peak of I think our the Carson City area is what, like an elevation of 4,000 something.
Yeah,
Like 4,500. You get up to Tahoe and it's about 5,000.
Yeah, probably about that. Because Mount Rose is like around 9,000, like when skiing. So
yeah, if Mount Everest was 22 feet underwater, our valley was several thousand feet, over 20,000 feet below water.
yeah, sheesh.
And Jake, I don't know if you know this. Do you know what our state fish is?
Oh, wait, is it that one extinct fish?
Yeah, yes.
Wait, yeah, I don't remember what that fish is called. It's a really weird fish.
Let me pull up the name. That's not. No, sorry, state fossil. That's what it is.
Oh,
It's not the
state
state fish. It's the state fossil.
Do we have a state fish?
We do have a state fish. It's a sort of trout.
Oh, I see.
So I'm sorry. It's called the Shiniosaurus. It's an extinct fish, obviously. But wait, hang on. It is, sorry. Then it says that, sorry. There's two different sources, but I'm gonna go with the one that has the .gov at the end of it instead of .org, because .org is for losers. The state fossil is the Ichthyosaurus.
Oh, ichthyosaur.
Do you know what the term Ichthyosaurus means?
I do not.
It means big fish. The Nevada is a desert, for those of you who don't know. It's a desert state. It's a mountainous desert state in the United States. The state fossil is a ichthyosaurus, which is big fish. It was found in Fallon, which is the most desert place up north in northern Nevada, really. It's just barren dirt out there.
Yeah, and there was a fish found there.
There was a giant fish. Ichthyosaurus are huge. Let me look this up, because I know that they're a big fish, obviously, but like, how big is, that says bug, but whatever. How big is the
Oh, man, that thing must have been big.
The ichthyosaurus can get up to 85 feet long. Almost as big as a blue whale.
Oh my gosh.
A fish almost as big as a blue whale. Like, what? And what it says is that it was smaller than most of its relatives. I'm getting, like, very various, like, things. Because this one says that it measures up to 70 feet. This one says 1 to 20 meters, which is anywhere from 3 to 70 feet. So, like, it could be a small fish, but, like, the average was closer to the 70 feet long. That's almost as wide as the ark itself.
Yeah.
Is how big that fish is.
Whoa.
Like, geez, what the heck? And that is the desert states. Like, state fossil is a big fish. Like, if you don't understand the flood, there's no way to explain that fossil being there, because there's no water in Fallon at all. There's no water out there. Not even, like, I don't even think that there's a river that goes out through Fallon, is there?
Not that I know of.
It's like there's just no water out there at all, and rivers in Nevada are like creeks in the rest of the United States.
Right.
Like, rivers out here are tiny. Ain't no way a fish that long is fitting out there. So, yeah, flood happens, and that's how you get big fish dying in mountain areas, and also how you can also find seashells and starfish on Mount Rose. Little thing. You can actually find seashells on Mount Rose.
Yeah, it's like, how does that make sense?
Yeah. It's really funny to me. But yeah, 15 cubits underwater, 22 and a half feet underwater was Mount Everest. And what's also an interesting thing is that when Moses, because Moses is the author of Genesis, and he's the author of the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. When Moses is writing the Torah, they have already come up with a dating system, right? So their months are the same as our months, but they did it based off of the seasons, right? You had 4 seasons that they decided because of the way that nature changes. And it was every 3 months. After the third month of that season, it would be a new season, and that's kind of how it works with us today. Not really anymore. There's just a random date in a specific month that is like, oh yeah, that's the first day of summer. Like, it's weird, but they would just do the first day of the month, and then at the end of the 3rd day of that month, then it would be the next season. So when it says the 2nd month on the 17th day, we can almost for certain take that literally to be February 17th. We almost can literally take that seriously. There's obviously still like a toss-up on like how everything worked, but like we can almost take that as a literal February 17th is when the flood came, as like just a reference.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that. Dang.
And another thing is that rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. One thing that like you learned in like Sunday school was that like for 40 days and 40 nights Noah was just on the ark and doing whatever. No, that's not how long the flood was. That's how long the rain was coming. For 40 days rain came and the earth flooded. Water was constantly increasing in volume for 40 days and 40 nights. That's a long time, bro. For a month and a half of just pure rain. Like...
Yeah, that's crazy.
And this is, I think we talked about this in the last episode of like where I brought up the theory of like the bubble around around Earth, as far as like people living forever. Like, because scientists definitely have like, well, Christian scientists have been like, there is a possibility that like if Earth was covered in a water vapor that blocked the UV rays, that we would live a lot longer. So like when it says that the heavens opened up, that's where I'm just like, yeah, there was this huge water bubble around Earth, and God was just like, pop, and everything just came in and destroyed everything.
And there was no more.
Yeah, I think that would be hilarious if that was the case. Just being like, hey, here's this vapor to let you guys live for like thousands of years. Oh, well, hundreds of years. And then he was just like, wow, you guys really suck. Let's drown you.
You guys
pop,
can do
just pop the bubble. And then also a different thing from your typical Sunday school story of Noah was that it's 7 pairs of every animal and then 1 pair of unclean animals.
Yeah, not just two animals of each, like, well, I guess kind or species, however you want to translate that.
I don't think that anyone knows what that means. Really.
Yeah, like, what is a kind of animal?
Okay, the study note says that according to its kind, it's repeated. The Holy Spirit is not wordy without purpose. Is a reflection of cross-reference with Luther something. I don't know. This looks like it's a different book that Luther wrote. But by this procedure, Moses wanted to thrust a goad? I don't know how to pronounce that word. As it were, into the minds of readers to keep them from thinking that his message dealt with some unimportant matter. That didn't explain what that meant, but...
Yeah.
But so yeah, I stand on my statement. I don't think anyone really knows what that means, but it could be taken literally that any animal that we know of today was there, or the ancestors of all animals. No, and I that's not the part that matters, but like that's still a lot of animals. That's a whole lot of animals.
Yeah, and then a lot of food to have for them and the animals.
Right. And this is also where some people are just like, this is where the dinosaurs died. Is that they just weren't allowed on the ark. God was like, get rid of them. That's not something we want. Because, like, could you imagine, like, not like a Jurassic Park imagine, but that's just your everyday thing, going out and there's just, like, T-Rexes and Velociraptors just going all over the place.
Bro, that would be insane.
maybe that's what happened to some of these people who just like got offed in the genealogy of Noah.
Yeah, they just been face to face with a T-Rex.
Just unfortunate. Do you think like any one of the mighty men like pulled a How to Train Your Dragon kind of thing?
Man, that would actually be so cool.
Just riding a T-Rex into battle, taking over a nation.
I bet they could tame some dinosaurs, man.
That would. I don't know, man. When it comes to the Bible, dinosaurs just aren't mentioned. The only things that we can like assume could have been dinosaurs, maybe, are the 2 unknown creatures mentioned in the Bible with the Leviathan and the Behemoth. Those are the only 2 things that, like, just don't have a correlation to anything that we know of, really. Other than, like, the Behemoth was on land and the Leviathan is in the water. Yeah. But, like, I just thinking about dinosaurs in this, as far as like creation story, is just so weird.
No, they seem to elude the scriptures.
They just don't seem to exist when it comes to the Bible.
Yeah.
It like I almost think that just they all died in the flood. I mean, I guess so.
I
But
guess that's why some people think that the devil put dinosaur fossils in the trap.
the dinosaurs aren't real.
Dinosaurs, they weren't real, bro.
I mean, like, as far as like far-fetched things about the world, that like shouldn't be something that people are arguing about, I think this one is the least, like, the one that I like have least confusion about, because literally dinosaurs are not mentioned in the Bible. To say that they don't exist is not as far-fetched as like to say, like, I don't know, like the world is flat or something like that. I feel like as far as those kinds of like quote-unquote conspiracies, I think that one's my least concerning one. If someone were to be like, dinosaurs aren't real, I would be like,
Yeah.
well, no, they are, but I think I get what you're coming from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. But yeah, everything's dead now, even birds and things in the water too. Because one thing that you don't know, like that you don't learn about, when it comes to, well, you might not learn about, when it comes to marine biology, if you have saltwater animals, if you put them in fresh water, they die. If you put freshwater animals in saltwater, they die. Even if one animal can be in both freshwater and saltwater, if the water is a different temperature, they die. So if all of the waters in the earth were to suddenly mix their salt levels, and mix their temperature levels, and with all the pressure of the water throughout the world creating all these different cyclones and stuff, because I'm sure hurricanes came too at this moment, with water coming from the heavens and from the earth, and then just all of this stuff happening at one moment. I'm sure there were hurricanes and stuff. Even the water, like the water life, is not going to live from that, because all of the different things that kept them alive have now merged with other things that are toxic with them, and so everything just dies. It's not a living thing anymore, even like water stuff. And like the birds and everything, yeah, they can fly, but they can't keep flying up into the air into space. Like, that atmospheric pressure affects them, and lack of oxygen affects them as much as it affects us. So, and if all of the trees and everything were covered with water, they have nowhere to land. So birds just kind of either drowned or died of exhaustion and then drowned, or got smothered by rain and then drowned. Like, it's something that that always has made me like think, just like, God hated humanity so much in this moment and regretted creation in general that he killed everything, not just humanity. He killed everything. We like, humanity was so corrupt and corrupted the earth that he killed everything, even just the animals of the world. Like, that's how bad humanity was.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about, like, if any people know the story, like, just Revelation in general. Revelation is the book that talks about the end of the world and the day of judgment and everything like that. And you think about how Jesus also says that, like, the world will get worse up until the day of judgment.
Yeah.
It will continue to get worse.
Yeah.
If humanity was so corrupt then that God had to wipe them off of the face of the earth, and you look at how we are now, and you think about just how corrupt humanity is, I would put the argument that we're nowhere close to how corrupt the world was. Because if we were to reach that level of corruptness before Judgment Day and got worse than they did,
Yeah, don't make a lot of
it would
sense.
be a different level of hatred. And, like, God wiped them when they hit that level. He wiped them from the earth when they got too corrupt. Because I'm sure he was watching them the whole time, slowly get more and more corrupt, being like, why is this happening, guys? Like, what's going on? And didn't wipe them from the earth until it became just way too much and they were too far gone. To think about our world now and to think that we're not at their level, like, oh gosh.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yeah, because I mean, just look back through history, not even that long ago, like World War II, less than 100 years ago. Like, that was horrific, bro. And it was
Yeah.
like people did awful things in that war, man.
Yeah, it's to think that that's not even like the worst thing that happened or the
No.
most corrupt that humanity's ever been. It's it just
Yeah.
shows just how capable. It just shows the nature of man.
Yeah.
I had to. I'm sorry.
No, man, that was well put. You put that in good spot. But yeah, no, like this also can tell some people, it's like, yeah, even though, God definitely displays a lot more wrath in the Old Testament, he's also extremely patient with,
Oh, yeah.
with humanity in the Old Testament, and we're just gonna keep seeing that that same thing play out as the Old Testament continues on.
Right. Yeah. Like Noah was 500 when he fathered his kids, but his father was 182 when he fathered Noah. So he fathered Noah for 595 years. So when Noah was 95 years after Noah had fathered his kids, his father died, right?
Yeah.
No, up until when Noah was 500 is when God said, hey, humanity's too corrupt. There are generations of people before him, like Methuselah, 969 when he died, had fathered Lamech for 782 years.
Yeah, crap.
Methuselah was 300 years when his dad suddenly disappeared from the earth and was taken by God because his father was Enoch, and Enoch was fathered for 800 years. Well, there was another Enoch. So Enoch was when Enoch was 65, he fathered Methuselah. And when Jared lived, after Jared lived 800 years, he fathered Enoch. Like, there's thousands of years after Adam that go by in which God is watching humanity slowly get worse. And it's not like he has just disappeared from humanity. We know that the tribe, the Sethites, the generations from Seth, are listed as believers of God and the followers of God.
Yeah.
So, like, God is still present with them and still doing stuff and having as much of a fellowship as physically possible. Spiritually possible? I don't know how that works. But yeah, spiritually possible. He's having as much fellowship as he can based off of the sin of the world. And over several thousand years, humanity just keeps getting worse and worse up until when Noah is 500, God finally is like, this is the farthest that you guys can physically go.
Yeah.
And I'm to actually make God regret making anything for creating. Like, the God who's all-powerful can create anything he wants to by speaking stuff, just regretted his decision. Like, that's saying something. Like, but
Yeah, like, I don't even want to know what these people were doing, bro.
right? And we haven't even gotten to, like, how corrupt Sodom and Gomorrah was. Sodom and Gomorrah was bad, but this was worse.
Yeah, we kind of gave a glimpse of Sodom and Gomorrah, of how just disturbing the people were there.
We will get into that later in Genesis. We will actually be able to cover Sodom and Gomorrah in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we will get there quite soon.
But anyways, let's get back to when the floodwaters actually disappeared from the earth. So
Yeah,
Jacob, you
The
want
happy part of the story.
as happy as it can be. Nick, would you
Yeah.
want to
Right.
go ahead and start us with chapter 8?
All right. Yeah. All right. God remembered Noah, as well as all the wildlife and all the livestock that were with him in the ark. God caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the water began to subside. The sources of the watery depths and the floodgates of the sky were closed, and the rain from the sky stopped. The water steadily receded from the earth, and by the end of 150 days, the water had decreased significantly. The ark came to rest in the 7th month, and on the 7th day of the month, and on the mountains of Ararat. The water continued to recede until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the 1st day of the month, the tops of the mountains were visible. After 40 days, Noah opened the window of the ark that he had made, and he sent out a raven. It went back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see whether the water on the earth's surface had gone down. But the dove found no resting place for its foot. It returned to him in the ark because the water covered the surface of the whole earth. He reached out and brought it into the ark to himself. So Noah waited 7 more days and sent out the dove from the ark again. When the dove came to him at evening, there was a plucked olive leaf in its beak. So Noah knew that the water on the earth's surface had gone down. It had gone down. After he waited another 7 days, he sent out the dove, but it did not return to him again. In the 601st year, in the 1st month, on the 1st day of the month, the water that had covered the earth was dried up. Then Noah removed the ark's cover and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. By the 27th day of the 2nd month, the earth was dry. Then God spoke to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you, your wife, your sons, and your sons' wives with you. Bring out all the living creatures that are with you, birds, livestock, and those that crawl on the earth. And they will spread over the earth, and be fruitful and multiply on the earth." So Noah, along with his sons, his wives, and his sons' wives, came out. All the animals, all the creatures that crawl, and all the flying creatures, everything that moves on the earth came out of the ark by their families.
All right. So the floodwaters subside, and one thing that we see is that it was the 600th year of Noah's life when the floodwaters started. The second month, 17th day. It is now the 601st year of Noah's life. On the first day of the first month, the waters dried from the earth.
Yeah.
After the waters dried from the earth, Noah waited until the 2nd month on the 27th day to actually, well, he didn't wait. That's when God actually told Noah to get out of the ark. So the ark came to rest on the first day of the first month. And then on the 27th day, on the 2nd month, is when God said, "All right, get out. get out of the thing." So it has been a full year that water has been on the earth. A full year. Rain came for 40 days in the 2nd month, and all of the water on the earth had dried up on the 2nd month, the 27th day. They had lived in the ark for an entire year.
Yeah,
Not just 40 days, 40 nights.
Well, yeah, 365 days.
Yeah. I think it's actually I think it would be 400 days. Close to it. Or something close to it. So, like, it's a long time, bro. It's a long time to live in a boat. It's not something that people just do. And then when God was like, "Hey, get out," everything just left as if life is now normal. Like, that's just how it worked.
Yeah, no.
I find it also just weird to think that insects, along with birds and mammals and amphibians and somehow aquatic animals, just went on the ark and lived for a year. Like, I don't know how exactly the ark was built in order to maintain all of this life, but it seems like the only reason every animal is alive on that ark is because God kept them alive.
Yeah, you kind of have to come to that conclusion. Like I almost like to think that God made the ark like the TARDIS or something. It was just funny, and there's just vast ecosystems in the ark.
That would be so funny of a thought, considering how big the ark is already. It's
Right.
700 feet by not 700 feet, 450 feet by 75 feet is like the surface area of walking, and it has 3 decks to it. To think that you go in the boat and it's bigger on the inside when it's the biggest
Like,
boat you've
what?
ever seen.
Yeah.
But
It's almost like God was like just make it big so like people can see what you're building, and so they're like, oh, what are you building, dog?
right, yeah. Because one thing that going back to Evan Almighty, one thing that happens in that movie that I'm sure could have happened in Noah's time is that when Evan is building the ark, people are just like, dude, why are you building a boat in the middle of the city? What is happening right now? And Evan's just like, God told me to. And if you will choose to obey God, you will help me build this ark, and you will get in it when I tell you to. And everyone's just like, dude, you need to see a therapist.
Yeah, something is wrong with you, bro.
And I'm assuming that, like, even then as it is now, if people were to, like, because I'm sure Noah was like, hey guys, get on the boat, like, help me build this boat, otherwise you're gonna die. If people were to, like, listen, I'm sure they would have been fine. I'm sure God wouldn't have been like, no,
Yeah.
you can't, get
No,
out
yeah,
of here.
and that's actually and just to think of like how long he was building that boat, and like how many chances people had to
Right,
just
yeah.
ask him about what was going on.
So, and people knew, like it said in the chapter, that people knew him to be a man of God's own heart. Like that's
Yeah,
a David
good
thing,
man,
but
yeah.
like specific.
Yeah.
He was blameless in his generation. That's how it's worded. Noah was blameless in generation. People knew him as a man of God. Like people knew that
Yeah.
he was that he followed God,
Mm.
and everyone was just like, God told you to do that? You're stupid. Like, what? They knew him as a blameless man, a righteous man of God. And then when he did something that God told him to do, they were like, no, that's not true. It's wrong. But yeah, that's it's weird to me that there would just be insects and stuff on the ark too. Like I don't, that just sits weird with me. I don't
Yeah,
know why, but maybe I just don't like creepy crawly things. But
yeah, I wouldn't want to live with insects.
anyways, this next section is God's covenant with Noah, and it goes through chapter 9 as well.
Oh yes.
So we're gonna go ahead and just continue reading into chapter 9 as well. And then kind of cut it from there, and then we just won't read about the descendants of Noah either, because kind of works the same way as the descendants of Adam. So, anyways, verse 20 of chapter 8. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And when the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground because of man, for the intention of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I ever again strike down every living creature as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every morning thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. And for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. From every beast I will require it, and from man. From his fellow man I will require a reckoning for the life of man.
Whoever sheds human blood, by human his blood will be shed. For in the divine image God made human beings. As for you, be fertile and multiply. Populate the earth and multiply in it. God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I am now setting up my covenant with you, with your descendants, and with every living being with you, with the birds, with the large animals, and with all the animals of the earth, leaving the ark with you. I will set up my covenant with you so that never again will all life be cut off by flood waters. There will never again be a flood to destroy the earth. God said, This is the symbol of the covenant that I am drawing up between me and you and every living thing with you, on behalf of every future generation. I have placed my bow in the clouds. It will be a symbol of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring the clouds over the earth, and the bow appears in the clouds, I will remember the covenant between me and you and every living being among all the creatures. Flood waters will never again destroy all creatures. The bow will be in the clouds, and upon seeing it, I will remember the enduring covenant between God and every living being of all the earth's creatures.
All right, and right there, we already have another covenant, but this is an actual covenant made with like man as far as blood. So we have a situation in which the promise of a Messiah is given in with Adam, but a covenant is made with Noah. A little bit different. Jake, you remember the difference between the two from our theological stuff?
Yes, the unconditional and conditional covenants.
Yeah, you remember the do you remember the explanation for what makes a covenant a covenant?
This might not be all of it, but from most of what I would recall, it was two members of a party agreeing to meet certain conditions, and then at least the whole ritual thing behind it was them like cutting an animal in half and then walking on either side of the cut animal. From what I remember.
Yeah, so the covenant is a promise that says, hey, we're going to meet these agreements. If either one of us doesn't meet the requirements of this agreement, then that dead animal is supposed to be me. Like it's like a contract saying that if I don't do this, then I'm supposed to end up like that animal sacrificed for this. It's so strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the weird kind of deal that like it's kind of like that thing where it's like, hey, if you pinky promise, if you don't do it, then I'm gonna break your pinky, kind of thing, except on a whole new level.
Yeah, that kind of takes that to the extreme.
It definitely does take it to the extreme, and it's just one thing that that God actually does, well, no, that Noah actually does, is right after everything's done, after he leaves the ark for a year, he just builds an altar to Noah, like, just like, hey God, thank you for saving me, like you said you would. It's quite the thing. And yeah, already he is telling Noah that he's never going to gonna flood the earth again. And that doesn't mean like normal floods. It means that he's never gonna like wipe the earth out for eternity, like wipe the entire earth out with the flood. And then that's the sign of the rainbow too. The rainbow is the signature of like, hey, this isn't gonna happen again. And I know I said that like the section where it is Noah's descendants, and then it has the descendants of the nations descended from Noah isn't we're not going to talk about, but something happens in verse 18 through 28 that I completely forgot about that I want to go over. So in verse 18 it says, sons of Noah who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the people of earth were dispersed. Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on both of their shoulders, and walked backwards and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke from his wine and knew what his youngest son had done to him, he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of the servants shall he be to his brothers. He also said, blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. All the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. So, we don't know exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
But we know something bad happened. We know that it says that that Ham walked in, saw his father naked, and came back out and told his two brothers. But one thing that is used in the Bible is the word saw or know. When it's used, it's usually talked about sex. When it says that, like, they knew someone, or they knew, like, came to know someone, it usually talks about, like, recreating. So, in the given text, it can be assumed that Ham raped his father here in his vineyard when he was drunk, took advantage of his father, and then just went outside and told his brothers about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's pretty messed up.
And the thing is that, like, Shem and Japheth, like, walked backwards with a sheet so that they wouldn't, like, look at their father naked, and did so in a most respectful way. And then, even if it was just Ham peeking in, being like, haha, dad's naked, like, even, like, Shem and Japheth still did it a better way. So, yeah, that was one thing that I completely forgot about in that section. It's just, yeah, something messed up kind of happened there, and then Noah was just like, gosh, cursed be you.
I would understandably be as pissed as Noah.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Even if, yeah, like I said, even if nothing, like, happened, that would be
That's
so
that's
weird.
awkward.
Yeah, I know, right? Family dinner the next night, just glaring at the sun that saw you naked and made fun of you. Or did other bad things to you. Yeah, but that is the end of Noah's story, and the end of chapter 9 as well. And we see God's wrath in a manner that I don't think any of us are ever going to actually experience until Judgment Day. And I feel like it's going to be a little bit worse of wrath. Because it's like, this is your second time around and you're still doing this bad. Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, though, and I kind of just thought of this, like, one interesting thing about Judgment Day relating to the flood is, like, all of the like, kind of natural disaster punishments God inflicts, none of them deal with a flood, so that's pretty cool.
mm-hmm. Yeah, none of us are going to drown.
Yeah,
but the world will be ended with fire.
Yeah.
So, I don't know which is worse. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's, Fire and water, dude. Scary things to die from.
Yeah.
Very scary things.
Yeah.
But that's not the point of this.
Yeah.
It shows that, like, the world with sin, with no forgiveness, is this kind of wrath from God. Like, this is what happens when we choose to defy God and think, like, nothing bad will come from it.
Yeah.
Like, even nowadays, when you do, like, hey, when you do, like, ha, no one knows this, I can get away with this. Like, no. Well, as a kid, when you did something and you're like, ha, my parents didn't know, they very much do know. Like, if you ever snuck out before, they're very aware. It's just not something they need to confront you on, because it's like, all right, you're choosing to disobey. I had better expectations for you, but
Yeah.
it's the world without forgiveness of sins is God's wrath, and if we don't have that, it's something special.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, it's like all our actions have consequences, you know?
Yeah, I recently I just got asked, why do I believe that the Quran is not the source of truth over the Bible? And I had to think about it for a second, because I know that there's some specific stuff in the Quran that already, like, disproves it. But one of the major things is that the Quran doesn't believe in righteousness from atonement of sins. They do believe that you can be righteous without having your sins atoned for. And that always gets me, because it's like, if you believe in heaven, you believe in a perfect place. And if your sins aren't forgiven, you're entering that perfect place with that weight still. And the whole point of Jesus' death and resurrection on the cross was to forgive all those sins and remove that weight, so you're debt-free and can enter heaven. So you're seen as perfect in God's eyes because you believe in Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like going back to kind of the whole covenant thing we were talking about earlier. It's like Jesus takes the punishment that we were supposed to have inflicted on us because we didn't keep our end of the covenant, man. But
Yeah.
so
Because, yeah, when God made a covenant with us, it was to send His Son to forgive our sins, and it's unconditional because we couldn't pay our end of the debt, and God knew that when He made it. But that's why He sacrifices Jesus in our place. Technically, He kills man because man couldn't do their part. But since Jesus lived a perfect life, He was able to fulfill that covenant.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think like that's kind of why the whole works-based righteousness doesn't work, because I don't know if you think about justice, like people, even if they do good actions after they commit bad ones, they're still gonna be sentenced for their crimes. Someone robbed a bank, and then his defense is like, "Oh, but I gave it all to charity."
But I gave all of the money to other people.
Don't rob the bank, bro. It's not how it works.
Yeah, no, actually, Brian talked about that a little bit. He was just like, you don't have a person who murders someone, but then did all these other things, and the jury's just like, I know he killed that guy, but that homeless man he helped out the other day, that was so nice of him.
It's like, that'll like, it's not like math and like all these things add up. It's like, you still have to face the consequences. For like you can't undo a wrong by rights, you know.
Exactly, yeah. It still exists, and that's why atonement is so important.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I just to think about the world being this corrupt, and it's only gonna get worse, and it was terrible enough for God to end it. It's just, how much worse are we gonna be getting? You know?
Yeah. It's like I almost don't really want. I hope I'm not around for that.
Yeah, I don't want to see it, man. I don't want to encounter it.
Only
It
to be in our lifetime.
it can get worse than what it is right now, but I don't want it to be the worst it'll ever be. And that's the thing too. It's a very pessimistic view that I have, but compared to what we see now in Genesis and what we see in Sodom and Gomorrah and stuff like that, if the Bible says that the world would get worse as it gets closer to Judgment Day, and it'll be like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
If the time that we're in now is the worst it can ever get, right? Then I think that then I say that what my God says is the worst is weak, and I know my God isn't weak, so I know that this is nowhere near as bad as it will be, and it's such a terrible thing to look at, but it's just the truth is that this is nowhere close to how bad it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be around for that.
Yeah, nah, it's at least we got a message of hope though too, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's why all this is super important now, is to know that it's only gonna get worse, and that doesn't mean to not try, but like it really means that you need to try harder as far as like prevailing everything and bringing Christ back to our world, because the worse the nation gets and the worse the world gets, the harder it's going to be to sway the hearts of man. The more corrupt the world gets, the harder it'll be for them to turn back to their creator. So it's not a thing of like, the world's going to get worse, so I shouldn't try. No, it's the world's going to get worse, so save as many people as you can now before it's too late.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm thinking like even some like people that, you know, didn't necessarily like believe in like in the truth and the truthfulness of religion, like still thought it was extremely important in society, and when it was like starting to go away, I think at like the turn of, oh gosh, the 20th century, I think is when that was, like even those people were freaking out. It's like,
Yeah.
no, we kind of need religion in our society, or else we're losing a lot here.
Yeah. If I were alive during like the Black Plague, I definitely would have thought that the world was ending. Like,
Oh,
geez,
yeah.
dude. Like half of Europe is just dead. Like, yeah, the world's over. It's
Yeah, no, yeah, man, and yeah, and like either the World Wars II, I would have thought it was the end of the world.
Yeah, no, have World War One, I would be like, oh, dude, yeah, the world's probably ending, and then like the World War ends and there's peace. I'd be like, huh. And then there's another world war again in my lifetime. I would definitely be like, oh my gosh, that was like the 7 years, quote unquote, that God said in Revelation. That's definitely what that was.
Yeah,
That like
I
I
know,
would have,
right?
I would have lost my mind.
Yeah. It's like
I
we're
would have
still here.
been freaking out, dude. That would have just been so much.
Yeah.
That would have been, yeah, a whole lot to deal with in one moment.
Yeah, like, well, yeah, I couldn't imagine that, man.
But yeah, that is the story of Noah and the flood and God's wrath. And Jake, just kind of how we did in that little mini segment episode about Adam and Eve and why God would put the tree of knowledge and good and evil. If you guys want to listen to that little mini episode, go ahead and check it out. We talk about we talk about just what fellowship means and how food is, and in the Bible, and why God would put an element that seemed like an obvious fall for humanity. Why he would do that. In the same manner, Jake, why do you think a loving God would kill all of humanity?
Well, I guess it goes, you know, back to the idea, if you believe that the Lord is perfectly just, and you know, we're not explicitly given in this here passage exactly how in what aspect these people were being wicked. We just know they must have been doing some really
bad stuff, and,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously, if some kind of I don't know, like book or movie was written about just some of these people's lives, we would want to see these people on death row, most likely, at least. So, yeah, even though it's hard to think about. It's like sometimes like it's like, man, did he have to kill all like what the animals do? Like all those animals had to die. Well, actually, I know C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Problem of Pain that kind of tackles this question, and I did read it. It was a while ago, so I don't remember all of his arguments, but I would definitely recommend that book if you want to dive deeper further into this question, because yeah, it's a difficult question to tackle for sure. But I guess for me, I gotta believe that God is just. He doesn't just murder and kill people for little petty things. It's like now these people have actually like severely done really bad things,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of that aspect of back in Adam and Eve's thing of just like you want the creation to obey, and if the creation isn't obeying, like God gives them several thousand years to rework everything. But here's the thing: when it came to killing all of humanity, this happens in Sodom and Gomorrah too, and we'll get to it in a little bit. But Abraham Abraham is praying to God, saying, "God, don't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. If there's one righteous person in Sodom and Gomorrah, please spare them." And God promises Abraham. He says, "Okay, if there is a righteous person in Sodom and Gomorrah, they will live. I promise that to you." Everyone in Sodom and Gomorrah dies because not one person in there was righteous. Like, that is the sad truth. God made the promise to Abraham that he would save anyone who was righteous, but there wasn't a person that was righteous to save. And in the same way, Noah's family is saved from the flood because Noah was righteous, but not a single person other than Noah. Not Noah's family wasn't righteous. It was Noah was righteous.
Yeah,
And
no,
because of his righteousness, his family was saved. But not a single other person on the entire world was righteous in the eyes of God. Like, that's some weight. And it was a loving, generous God, because he didn't just wipe humanity and start over and recreate humanity. He saved the righteous. And it just happened to be that Noah was the only one who fit that category. He didn't even have to save Noah's family, but it kind of fit into the aspect of one of each kind, male and female kind of aspects for recreating. So he saved Noah's wife, and I think kind of to avoid incest in the most way possible, he saved the wives of his sons as well. But like,
Yeah.
have you seen, or did you even hear about the movie, like the Ark, when it came out, or like Noah when it came out?
Dude, I feel like 3 different Noah movies have come out within the past like 5 years.
There was one that was like
No.
like an R-rated movie or something, because
Oh,
it just
really?
showed a lot of people dying.
Oh, yeah. I don't. Well, yeah. I don't think I may have heard of it. I haven't seen it though.
Yeah, so the 2014 movie Noah.
Hmm.
It wasn't rated very good, and I watched it, and it wasn't a very good movie.
Oh,
So it's a PG-13 movie, so it's not rated R. But
Yeah.
if you want like a quote unquote visual, I'm not gonna say that this is like an accurate movie, because it really isn't. It didn't have like a lot of Christian stuff to it. The description says when God decides that mankind has become too sinful and must be wiped from the earth, he chooses Noah for a great task. Noah must build an ark large enough to hold his wife, adopted daughter, sons, Douglas, Booth, and their wives, plus breeding pairs of every animal. And when tasked with this, Noah and his family witnessed God's wrath in the form of an apocalyptic flood. It's it kind of goes over the stuff. It's not like biblically accurate as far as like details and whatnot, but usually most of these movies aren't. But if you kind of want to get a better grasp of like the visual of the corruptedness, I guess, this movie is a good start. It can nowhere depict how corrupt humanity was, because my gosh, I can't even fathom how corrupt humanity would be to make God regret their existence. But yeah, if you kind of want a better visual, you can watch that one. But there's one scene. This is where it's not biblically accurate. Noah has an adopted daughter in this movie, like it says. That's just not how that works at all. But back in that day, but Noah just has an adopted daughter, and this movie came out in 2014, so it's not spoilers at all. If you haven't seen this movie, it's been 9 years, so I'm sorry. But that daughter dies by being trampled by the people chasing after the ark when the floodwaters are coming, trying to live, right? And just, like, her character is created just so that she can die in that scene, because she's running, like, they're all running into the ark because the floodwaters are coming, and they're being chased by the mobs of people. And the adopted daughter stops and like turns back and looks at everything, like all the people running at her, and she kind of like stands, and it's like she's gonna start preaching or talking to them, and they don't slow down, and they just run over her like Mufasa in The Lion King. They just trample her, and she dies right then and there. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. But regardless of that, yeah, it's a heavy weight, but we still have the moral of the story isn't God punishes those who are unrighteous. It's he saves those who are righteous. It just happened to be that the only one who was righteous with God was Noah, and that's just a sad truth. Like, God would have chosen to save the others if they were righteous, but they were just too wicked to be saved.
Yeah.
Alright, well that will end this episode of Word on the Street. Thank you guys again so much for listening. If you enjoyed everything that was going on, please feel free to let us know via the email that is in the description of every episode, or through the Instagram that's in the description of the episode. If you're listening to this on YouTube, give us a comment, subscribe or like to let us know that you guys are enjoying what's going on, or if you have any questions, prayer requests, anything, feel free to reach out to us in any way that you guys can. We've made it very easy for you guys through the email and through YouTube and everything. If you guys want to reach out with prayer requests or different comments, or even want to ask questions about things that we covered, we are more than happy to go over them with you guys. So we will tackle those either directly or through little mini segment episodes that we will do in the future. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and Jake, can you go ahead and outro us out?
Yeah, so all right, everyone. Thank you all again for watching, and join us next time on the Word on the Street. When
God has corrupted the human language?